So our fleet's going to be setting out. Obviously, we're setting up our colony here, so there's a lot of stuff that we need to bring over. So we are going to have 3 ships. 3 seems to be a magic number for early explorers. I don't know why. We got Columbus as the Nuno, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. We got Susan Constant, Godspeed, and then the Discovery is the little one right here. Susan Constant, of course, is the flagship of our fleet, and captain on board is Christopher Newport, and he's also the admiral of the entire fleet. He's an investor in the company, an experienced sailor. He has been actually a privateer for most of his life, a pirate for England, and he has been knighted for his efforts. Captain Gosnold, another very experienced sailor, he's on the Godspeed. They've both been up and down the coast quite a bit. They know the area that we're going to, that's why they're put in charge. And they also know the way the winds are working in the Atlantic. So if you take a look at our map, you can see the lovely dotted line with the ships drawn on it. That's the route that they take, and this looks like a very illogical route, right? I mean, this is basic geometry. Shortest distance between any 2 points is a straight line, not a whatever this thing is. I don't know if there's a name for this shape, because it does this over here.
Parabola.
Sure, parabola. We'll call it a parabola. Seems completely illogical, but it actually makes sense when you think of the wind. In the North Atlantic in this case meaning anything above the equator, not like way up there. Wind goes south, west, north, east. Now there are a couple of exceptions. There's ways where you can cut across the middle if you're lucky. There's places in the North Atlantic where you can try and sail west. But the prevailing winds in the Atlantic follow this big circle. And the most constant winds follow that circle. So it might take you longer. The wind might be a little slower, but it's almost always going to be there. Once you get out here, you can always follow this route. Obviously, before we're going to go sailing, though, we do need to load up with a few stuff. I'm going to need some volunteers. I need some people that want to stay on a ship, on the tween decks with about 3 feet of headroom, 6x4 mattress for every 2 men. You're sharing the mattress simultaneously. We're not hot racking for the passengers. Ship's biscuit, weak beer, dried salted meats, and dried fruits and vegetables to eat. 144 days, 7 island stops, 6 in the Caribbean. Lovely voyage. Who's up? No, not so much over. Well, it doesn't sound appealing. Most people won't be doing that. Most people, if we ever colonize Mars or the Moon, won't be doing that either, though. This is not, the entire English population getting on the ship to come over here. We're getting 105 passengers, 105 colonists on all 3 ships coming over to settle here. And we're going to load up with that stuff, the ship's biscuit, the beer, the salted meats. That's our supplies. You're living on top of that. Down in the cargo hold of the larger ships, we're going to have armor, weapons, tools, all the stuff we need to set up the colony. We load up, we get ready. Coming over here, we're going to find gold, we're going to find silver, we're going to find a Northwest Passage. All sorts of good stuff over here. We're going to make money, and then we're going to come back to England rich, wealthy, and famous. And we get into the English Channel, and we set sail, and we don't go anywhere. So, prevailing winds. Notice I said when you get out about here, when you're up about here, you're dealing with local winds of the English Channel. The English Channel doesn't like cooperating. Like ever. They spent 4 weeks there. 4 weeks from December 20th until early February-ish. It's a little bit more than 4 weeks. It takes them a while to get out of the English Channel. And the reasons for this are a few. One, the wind is going that way, and we want to sail that way. We're a square-rigged ship, can't do anything with that. We're stuck. Or we want to go that way, and the wind isn't going anywhere. Can't do anything with that either, no engines yet. Or we want to go that way, and the wind is going as a howling gale that will rip our masts out. We could try to do something with that, and then we tear out our masts and potentially sink the ship, and that's bad. We don't want that to happen. 4 weeks. Finally, after about 6 weeks, 4 of which, as I said, we're in the English Channel, get down to the Canary Islands. Now, have you guys ever heard of John Smith? How many of you guys have heard of John Smith from the Pocahontas movie? Describe him, please.
Blonde. I guess attractive, like cartoons.
Alright, so attractive in a Disney cartoon way. Tall, strong, blue eyes.
Mel Gibson voice.
Mel Gibson was the voice, really?
I think so.
Wow. Mel Gibson voice, breathes fire, sparks coming out of his eyes, can hear you a mile away, flies. Doesn't need to breathe that guy, right? Alright, John Smith. Short, annoying, braggart. Gets on everybody's nerves. Get to the Canary Islands, and he is put in solitary confinement for attempted mutiny. He's arguing with the captain. You don't argue with the captain. Ever. Bad idea. And so he's put in solitary confinement. They continue on their merry little way, month across the Atlantic, arrive in the Caribbean, Dominica, and they erect a gallows to hang John Smith. Now at this point the captain is merciful, says, hey, Smith might be useful later, and they decide not to hang him. The logic on their part is a little bit fuzzy, but they decide not to hang him, and it's the captain's prerogative to do that. Continue on, a couple of stops later, Island of Nevis. Now, for those of you that have been keeping track, we had 6 weeks down here, a month across here, we got a ways to go left. I'll just tell you right now, the voyage is 144 days long. There's no deodorant. You are using chamber pots if you are a passenger, which are down below and they are kept with you, and occasionally the ship's boy will empty them, or the ship will empty them. Either way. There's seasickness, beer and salted meats, and no change of clothes. The island of Nevis, you take the bath. The one and only, singular, only bath. They find hot springs. Did I mention it's the only one? Yeah. Not exactly my type of party. I kind of sensitive nose and all that stuff. But you know, whatever floats your boat, so to speak. That was a terrible pun. Ignore that. Moving on, next interesting stop, Island of Mona. So I've just described some pretty horrible conditions. You're stuck down below most of the voyage. It's smelly, it's stinky. There's, shall we say, feces floating around. It's not good. One man dies, and only one man dies, and he doesn't die on the ships. A man by the name of Edward Brooks, part of a hunting party on the island of Mona, goes out probably chasing after some wild pig. We're not really sure. We just sort of assume that it's wild pig most of the time. And he dies of heat stroke. Now, they don't tell us heat stroke, of course, because they don't want to just say, today Edward Brooks died heat stroke. I had cornflakes for breakfast. I mean, they're not doing that in their journal. What they say is that the fat melted from his body and the blood boiled within his veins. Yeah, these are the guys that entertainment was watching the people getting hanged. Yeah. Blood sports and all that. So, I mean, this was perfectly alright to describe it like that. Continue sailing, arrive up here at Jamestown. They've got a few things they have to look for when they arrive. Island or some other defensible location, a certain number of miles, about 50 miles away from the ocean so that we don't get noticed by the Spanish, not inhabited by the locals, river headed northwest. We're looking for a northwest passage, you gotta remember. Deepwater harbor so we can actually get ships to the shore, that's important. Don't want to have to row too much. All sorts of different things. About 10th on the list is fresh water. They regret that later. They arrive. Discovery, the little ship, is owned by the company, so she stays here looking for that northwest passage. After about a month, the other ships return to England. And then the next resupply arrives in about January, February of 1608. Of the 104 men they dropped off, there are 38. Yeah. Voyage over, one man dies. Then you get about 60% mortality over the next 8 months. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go at this point. If you only have time for one ship, I recommend the Susan Constant. She has the most stuff on board. But I do invite you to visit all of the ships. And if you have any questions, I will hang out here for a bit and answer questions. So, yeah. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you. Welcome.